Hey everyone, welcome back to episode number 65 of the Beginner to Master Speedrun. So I finally got around to updating my profile picture. This is a photo taken in 2009. I was playing in the Super Nationals tournament. It's one of the biggest US Scholastic tournaments. I was in the K-12 division. And in the photo, I'm playing against none other than Robert Hess, who was an IM at the time, but I think a week or two after this game, he became a GM. And he beat me pretty convincingly. But I was around 2100 rated, at least US chess, in the photo. So hopefully I can break 2100 on chess.com rapid today. And yeah, let's just hop into the first game and we'll hopefully have some instructive chess. Okay, first opponent playing Karakul. I'll play e4. And we have a Sicilian. I'm going for one of my more favorite pet lines. Sometimes this can go into a Grand Prix if black does allow me to take, which I will. And then I'll play f4. So yeah, this is going to be a Grand Prix formation. There are times in the Grand Prix where you play bishop c4, but yeah, against knight c6, I do enjoy the structure. And yeah, going forward, I'll just complete development. I don't mind the trade on e4. Black is increasing some pressure. d3 looks pretty standard here. And then, I mean, it could lead to a queen trade, like if takes and then takes and takes. But the big problem for black in these lines is the double c-pawns are kind of a long-term weakness. So black is keeping all the tension, aligning the queen with the king on the diagonal. And I do have a few options against this move. Could maybe consider knight a4. King h1 is also looking pretty safe. There's also e5 if I just want to gain space in the center, attack the knight. Honestly, everything looks pretty good. I think I'll play e5 when I have the chance. Although, do I want to deal with this stuff? e5, c4. I do have d4 actually. That should be okay. There's times where the knight comes to g4 and the diagonal opens, and worst case I would get smother mated, but yeah, I'm ahead in development here, so it's not a huge concern. And after knight d7, I think the two moves I'm debating between are king h1 or knight a4. I think knight a4 maybe has more direct nature to it. Attacking the queen. And very often, the knight goes to the square anyway, like even if the queen's not on b6. As one of the positional plans for white on the queen side is to play b3, c4. Which, I mean, I'll probably play b3 here. I'm briefly considering c4 immediately. Also kind of have to acknowledge the fact that if I play b3, I think black is very likely to play c4 first. And then I think it's okay. I'll play d4, have the center. Maybe black will undouble the c-pawns. But yeah, it should be a very fine position. Black does play c4. So yeah, I'll play d4. A nice space advantage. Black is still a bit underdeveloped. Yeah, I'll take back with the a pawn. Now the benefit for black having the double c-pawns earlier is that c5 came once, but it can also come twice. So we might see c5 again. Which should be okay. Like c5 I don't think really has a threat to it. If takes, I take back with knight. Knight would actually be really good on d4. And in this case, I don't think the bishop is doing much on b4. I mean, black is probably just ready to castle. I could play b3 or pawn c3. And b3 would be defended. There's a line c3, bishop a5, and then bishop a3, piercing through the diagonal. But c3, bishop e7 maybe helps black in some sense. I would like to eventually achieve this f5 break. I'm really just looking for plans here. c4, probably not going to happen. Considering knight g5, but then h6, queen h5, g6. It doesn't look right. So what to do? If I start with c3, I'm going to start with c3. I'm realizing there's an idea. If bishop e7, I could maybe play b4, knight c5. I could also maybe just go for the eventual trade of bishops. Like bishop a3 here. Because this is one of my worst pieces. I'm going to play bishop a3. And this is actually one of the main defenders on the king side. Like if black does eventually castle, it'd probably be more enjoyable to attack without the bishop here. So we do trade bishops. Make sure I can properly move the pieces. My keyboard was in the way. Black is threatening to take the rook. So there's knight d2. Kind of multi-purpose. Knight d2. The only thing I don't like about this is c5. Rook f2 maybe is a bit more, or a bit less troublesome, I should say. A bit more useful. Yeah, avoiding any potential danger. Knight d2 is still a move to consider. It would unleash the rook, prepare f5. Okay, black castles. Now I actually have a choice. Like I could maybe just try and go for the attack, but I could also play positionally. The idea of b4, knight c5 looks kind of attractive. I do weaken the light squares. b4, queen d3. I'm going to trust my gut and go for b4. I think intuitively, the prospect of rook fa2 as well, just doubling on the a file, it looks nice. Really just trying to keep control over the position. Okay, black goes for knight to b6, so eyeing this square, but it does allow me to get in here. And I do hit the bishop. I'm actually very close to, I was going to say close to trapping the queen, but now I think I just win the bishop, assuming I'm not missing anything. I think black probably had to retreat there, bishop c8. So a slightly unexpected gift from my opponent, but happy to take it. And now I'm up a clean knight. Still very good control over the position. Just have to watch out for some sneaky knight moves. I mean, knight e3, I'd move the queen, maybe queen e2. So opponent's up about 2 minutes, but that's not going to help solve the material situation for black. Yeah, I think if I were black here, I'd maybe just wait, like play some rook move, maybe rook b8, rook e8, hope for this, and then play knight e3, hope for this, and then checkmate. And black's main source of counterplay is a combination of the knight and the queen. But as long as I don't get mated in some freak accident, yeah, everything should be okay. So opponent's taking a long time here. I do hope you guys are enjoying these games. Yeah, this rating level sometimes games can get a lot more difficult, but we do occasionally see the early blunders, and it's part of chess is punishing the opponents for the unnecessary gift giving, and also trying to minimize blunders from my own end as well. I really hope we don't see a situation where the opponent runs out the clock. This has happened in the past. It doesn't happen too often. There can maybe be some tilt with blundering a piece like this. I'm probably just going to cut out like all of these dull moments with the opponent just thinking as I sip more water. I might finish this water before the game ends. It feels like just a couple minutes ago I was down on time, which I guess is true. Time is flying. Kind of. I feel like it would fly faster if my opponent just made moves and give me something to think about. What to do. If you guys are enjoying the content so far, do click that subscribe button. It does help the channel. I do edit all of these videos myself. I do all the thumbnails. It takes a lot of work to put these out on a now more consistent basis. So I do appreciate all the viewer support, viewer feedback. And okay, my opponent abandoned the game actually. So I guess, yeah, maybe they went offline, although I don't know how it determines that they abandoned the game because they're still online. But I'll take the win. What to say about this? I mean, hopefully this is a nice instructive example how to play this opening structure. This line specifically, I think, is a very effective opening at this rating level, where a lot of players do allow bishop takes c6. The main move is knight d4, after which I usually like to play knight f3. But after the double c pawns happen, then it's a pretty fluid position to play. And this was more of an example of the positional play on the queen side. Engine actually already really likes white's position. Just check if there are any major things missed. But yeah, this whole idea with b4 was totally fine. And then, yeah, black should play... interesting. I don't think I realized like how good this is for white when I played knight c5. Like, it was pleasant, but if black saves the bishop, then the queen is nearly trapped. Rook a5. The queen would have to move to c4. And okay, knight d2 doesn't trap the queen immediately because queen takes c3. But it looks like I can play queen a1, defending c3. And knight d2 is actually unstoppable. Wow. I'm not sure if I would have found this. Maybe I would just kind of stumble into it, like once we got like this position. But after queen a1, yeah, knight d2 is coming, and queen has no moves, and there's nothing that really these pieces can do to help out. And once I play knight d2, then queen will probably have to sacrifice itself for knight or rook. Okay, well, that puts me over 2100 at 2102. Let's keep it going. Okay, playing Yoba Gilar. And I'll play e4. This time we have a Scandinavian. Knight f6. I encountered this line maybe a couple episodes ago. I think it was episode 63. And this is the move I like to play against knight f6. The idea is I induce either this or this, which obstructs the queen from attacking the pawn, and after which I would play bishop c4. With c6, I don't mind accepting the gambit. Black is sacrificing a pawn for more rapid development, but as far as I know, this should be very fine for white. Probably knight c3 first. Just so... if I play knight f3, it allows black to pin. I'd rather have more options. And okay, now it pays off because the bishop is shut in. I can now play knight f3. And then, not sure if I want to play d3 or d4. But I'll probably just start with castling. We might see a6. Against a6, I'd be more inclined to keep the bishop with bishop a4. We see bishop d6. And yeah, I mean, the reason to play d3 is to not give black a target to attack on d4, but d4 is like very well supported and it controls more space. So I think in this case, it's totally fine. Putting the pawn in the center. And now probably just complete development, bishop g5. I mean, really nothing to complain about. Up a pawn. More active position, more space with the d pawn versus e pawn. And I do have ideas of like maybe d5 or knight e4. I would like to exploit the pinned knight. I'm not scared of g5. I'd probably just weaken the black king. Okay, bishop e7 breaks the pin. And it does look like a passive move, but maybe one of the better approaches for black. I mean, I think I just want to keep improving. Rook e1. I don't mind if the knight moves and we trade. I do have a decision now. Earlier I was mentioning I'd play bishop a4 if a6. In this case, I do have the option of bishop d3, which is probably just a better square for the bishop. Has access to the king side and queen side. Pawn is still defended by the knight. If knight b4, I'd figure out what to do. Maybe just allow the trade. We see knight d5. And now, yeah, let's start trading. I'll take the bishop first. Queen takes would be a blunder because I take and the e-pawn is pinned. Probably more expecting knight c takes e7. We might also see this to counterattack my queen, but that would just lead to more trades. Yeah, now I think I'll just trade and then play c4. It looks pretty good. One thing I'm trying to figure out, though, is if c4 knight f4, is it that scary? Bishop e4 f5. It should be fine. I'm just worried about the bishop coming to c6 combined with a knight on f4. Like, I really don't want to give black any potential activity. And I think for that reason, I'm more inclined to start with knight e5. Delaying c4, but making it so I can probably just trade more. I trade knight for bishop, get the queen to f3, and I'll have c4 in my back pocket. Yeah, bishop c6, I'm still happy to trade. So I'm up a pawn. The position has simplified. And now I actually probably don't want to play c4 because then that would really weaken d4. I think I'd much rather just have the pawn on c3. And then the pawns complement the bishop. Okay, black maybe has some counterplay against b2. I'll keep it defended. In positions like this where you're up material, you just want to be patient. Make sure, I mean, first and foremost, that the opponent's not getting serious counterplay, and then look to keep improving, look for opportunities to simplify, sometimes even look for ways to attack. Like now, kingside seems maybe slightly vulnerable with the queen here. I mean, a4 is probably met with a3. If I create the battery, let's say bring the queen to e4, there is knight f6. So, yeah, what do I want to do? I'm just looking for plans here. I might actually start with a3. Like, it does look like I'm weakening the light squares, but the light square bishop just fills in the holes. I might even play g3. Just ensure the knight can't come here and then put the queen on e2. Looks very solid. But I'm struggling to find like other useful things to do. Queen d2 maybe? No, let's play g3. And actually one point of having pawn on g3 and pawn on a3 is if I do end up playing c4, the knight can't move forward. And there might be an opportunity in the near future to actually do that. Queen c7. I'm going to play queen d2 first. Maybe create some pressure against a5. Another idea here is to play b4, which actually might be, like, probably should be my main plan. As b4, it alleviates the backward b pawn for me. And then another benefit is I'm discouraging any plan of black playing c5. Now, I do maybe kind of weaken c3, but c3 is not really easy for black to attack. Very easy for me to defend. I feel like this resembles the structure from last game, like having this positional grip on c5. Unfortunately, I don't have a knight to plant on c5, but I have a bishop to just control light squares. Pawns do a good job controlling dark squares. So doing very good with square control. Queen d6. Yeah, let's shift the rook to... This is the only open file on the board. Now my queen is tied down to c3. I think I'll put the bishop on e4. I probably don't want to take the knight anytime soon, but it's nice to at least exert some pressure. c6 could be pressured later, and c4 is still an idea. I'm going to play queen b2. There's a plan here of rook a3 and then rook e to a1. And then the queen is always keeping this pawn defended. Okay, knight wants to annoy me a little bit. I might just move back. Although, do I have to? Rook a2 perhaps? Rook a2. Okay, I'm going to play a kind of a waiting move, h4. I think in general this move doesn't hurt me at all. Sometimes useful in gaining space on the king side. I just want to see if black goes for this, which the opponent does. I'm actually happy to see, because now I think the knight is more of a target than any sort of strength. And the queen is no longer tied down to defending the pawn. So black, yeah, kind of changes their mind there. Yeah, it's kind of a cat and mouse game. What to do now? Queen f3, knight d5. Maybe I'll just play this. Maybe I'll go for my original plan of queen b2, rook a3. Yeah, I didn't really accomplish much the last few moves, but neither did my opponent. I think we kind of repeated things a little bit. I did move my bishop back, my pawn forward. But now I do have the plan of this. So finally some sign of progress. Controlling the A file now. I mean, there's h5 ideas. Also looking at rook a1. Rook a1, there's e5. Yeah, what to do? Put the bishop back here. Yeah, still kind of cat and mouse. Hopefully I'm the cat trying to hunt down my opponent. I have queen. It's an annoying move. Rook a8's coming. Queen a5. And then queen a1. There's also knight d5, and then I could consider taking, go into this ending, but then the c-pawn's backwards. Knight d5. I'm probably going to end up like going for queen a1 and then maybe try and shift the focus to the king side. My opponent has done a good job at resisting, not cracking to the pressure. Yeah, queen c1 would come with tempo. Start with this. I'm kind of abandoning the A file. Okay, it looks like my opponent just missed the threat. A very nice pawn to win, because now h5 is coming. But this goes back to the idea that, like, yeah, sometimes it just requires patience. Like, keep applying pressure, keep poking and prodding. And like more often than not, players do end up cracking. So h5. I mean, the pawn is basically pinned to h7. Maybe black could try f5 here. But then bishop d3, I attack the knight. Okay, that's a free knight. I'll just take it. So it's another game. I mean, this game was, of course, longer and probably a better fight than the first game, but another game where my opponent was looking like they'd put up a good fight and then just kind of collapsed in a move or two. Yeah, still have all the kingside pressure. Now we're seeing the use of the h-pawn. Hopefully we don't see another abandoned game. Given the time situation, yeah, maybe my opponent's just trying to figure out how to resist as much as possible. As black, I'd probably go for f5, although yeah, it doesn't look that great. f5, I just move the bishop back, and queen g5 incoming. I mean, knight d2 and queen takes e2 it's a type of moment to maybe just storm away from the computer and try and gather one's emotions. Opponent has good connection. Yeah, at this point, I'd be surprised if we see another move in the game. I am curious if the game will end before the opponent flags, though, if it's going to be another abandonment or have to wait for the time to go to 0. On Lee chess, there's usually like a countdown. If it detects the opponent has left, then like it says when you can claim victory. Okay, final 10 seconds. Thrilling content here. A climax to the game. Okay. Well, hopefully another instructive game of, yeah, it goes to show another Scandinavian line with bishop to b5. And c6 is really not anything to be concerned about. Engine says plus 0.96 for white. So yeah, black doesn't have enough compensation for the pawn. I thought maybe black would go for bishop g4 here and then question whether I want to play f3 or knight f3 or even knight e2 or bishop e2. I'm not sure what I would have done. Engine prefers knight f3, just walk into the pin. E6. It goes for an interesting idea to take h3, bishop h5, and because white hasn't castled, there might be plans of g4. Like g4 immediately is playable. Also says b3, bishop b2, and maybe look to castle queenside. So anyway, yeah, the position I got was very solid. And I'm just wondering if I had anything more clear, like in this sort of simplified middle game, I mean early end game. But I think the position just called for gradual improvements. b4 was a very fine move. Control the A file. Okay, engine approves of what I did. h4. It actually says rook a5 would have been quite strong here. A top move. There were moments I was like considering this move, but I think this would have been especially nice because I'm controlling c4. So if black takes, there's no knight c4, and I would get the outside passer with rook a1 coming. And if black doesn't take, then I can still go for rook a1 and double up on the a file. So that is a nice kind of instructive moment. Maybe I should have found. But yeah, I played very patiently, and eventually, yeah, the queen c1. I think my opponent just didn't fully see the whole board. Forgot about h6, and yeah, free pawn, and then free knight. Both of the blind spots were on this diagonal, just missing the long range movements. So okay, up to 2107. Let's do one more. Hopefully I can find someone who will play the full game. Playing Raiden Bambang Gulyanto from Indonesia. And we have a queen's pawn. I'll play Queen's Gambit declined. e3. Yeah, e3 is a little bit more passive than the usual bishop g5 or cd and then bishop g5. Against this move, I like to play a quick a6. The idea is to, in many cases, expand. If white plays bishop d3, I can take and then play b5, hit the bishop, and gain a lot of time just expanding on the queen side. White plays h3. That's interesting. It's funny, if I play c6 here, I would transpose into a game I had in Norway against Grandmaster Bogner from a few weeks ago. Do I want to go for that? c6? And there's also b6 here. I could also take and then maybe this is justified. Yeah, I'm going to go for this. Like sometimes you do want to wait for the bishop to develop, but just because h3 probably wasn't the most like useful move for white, I'm fine just kind of getting my own play on the queen side. And this is a very common setup from a lot of the Queen's Gambit declined openings, where black just gets good piece harmony. I could start with, do I want to start with rook c8, queen b6? I could also take, there's options here. a3 is a sign that white probably wants to take and then play b4. I'm actually leaning more towards taking and then just see what white takes back with. If white takes with pawn, it would open the bishop, but it gives white an isolated queen's pawn, which could be a long-term weakness. If takes with knight, then I can develop the bishop probably, and then castle. If queen takes, I can play bishop c5, develop with tempo. So e takes d4 is played. And I think now I just want to play like very positionally. Like one of the nice things here is I have good control over the d5 square, which is usually what you want to do when the opponent has the isolated pawn, is to control the blockading square. And I'll just castle. I'll probably look to play knight b6 and knight to d5. The white's also very solid. Imagine the rooks will come in, like maybe queen c2, rook c1, rook fd1. We might see bishop d3 as well. Queen b3. I do have to watch out for a4 ideas. I think a4 is usually met with b4. And I mean, this plan just seems so natural. Knight e5 makes sense. Now, do I want to plant a knight on d5 immediately? I could play rook c8 first. Yeah, I think it makes sense, rook c8. It's the only fully open file on the board. Now knight d5. Leaning more towards this move. I like this knight on b6, controlling some squares on the queen side. I also enable bishop to f6. I mean, there might even be cases where I just take this, get the bishop pair. Tension is definitely building up. Now if I take, there's probably just a mess. Considering queen d6 and then rook fd8. Yeah, let's go for that. I'm still in the phase where I want to optimize all of my pieces. That move I probably should have seen coming. Yeah, that's a good response. I have to play this. And this is another idea of queen d6, as the queen actually finds a decent place on the queen side. The downside is I might be allowing... Am I allowing knight c5, takes... Kind of gets messy. So knight g3. And now I could consider transforming the position. There's also just rook fd8. Yeah, let's go for this. Maybe in some cases I want to just play bishop f8 to be safe. It's still a very tense position. Rook c1 is logical. Yeah, fighting for the c file. And this bishop is probably the next piece to improve. Bishop f6. Bishop f6, knight g4. Maybe bishop d6. Yeah, creating the battery. Like the queen still serves an aggressive purpose on b8. And because white's committed to h3, this knight could be less stable. I was thinking bishop f6, knight g4 could be annoying too. Okay, so we trade rooks. I'm trying to figure out how white deals with this. Actually, am I threatening to win a pawn? Because takes. White could take, and my knight on d5 is pinned to the undefended bishop once my queen leaves b8. If I take here, the queen takes and defends everything. Yeah, it's not so simple. Like, I want to take and then take and take again. Maybe what I can do is... Wait a minute. Let's figure out the move order. If I take the knight first, takes, and then take the bishop next. White takes my bishop. White would take with queen. Or pawn even? I think that's okay though. I'm gonna go for this. Wait a minute. Takes, takes, takes. Queen takes. I'm thinking knight c4 in like the very end. No! What did I do? Oh, that's a really bad mouse slip. I just mouse slipped. I just blundered a whole piece. I can't even... Oh no. Okay, well, this is probably going to be my first loss of the speedrun. I don't know how I did that. I think I clicked. I thought I had that disabled though. Maybe not. Okay. Opponent's been playing well too. It's going to be really hard to fight back. Oh, it's so sad. Played this move? I mean, I want to take the knight, but I think I have to try and keep some complications alive. And that was a really nice looking line too. I think this is the downside of like drawing arrows is sometimes it's like easier to mouse slip. I think what I did there is I tried to deselect the arrows, but I clicked on a square where a piece could legally move to. And the piece was, unfortunately, the bishop was selected. So, yeah, what to do? Can probably go back and see exactly how that happened. But it's not over. I mean, I'm down a piece. What do I have for it? I have one threat, maybe 2, 3 threats. I can probably simplify. I'm down on the clock, but maybe I can use the clock as a weapon. The goal is to just keep the game going. Yeah, might as well take. Rook supporting the knight. Unfortunately, we do simplify a bit. Still this nagging pressure. Okay, knight b3. Yeah, unfortunately, knight b3 just simplifies more. I think I have to go for it, though. Like, what else to do? Knight a4. Let's play knight b3. Gotta bust out the Prix moves as well. And we're gonna see... Okay, I was expecting queen c3. That's also a fine move. If I play f6... I'll go for f6. Okay, e5. White might end up sacking, which is scary, but gotta deal with it. Definitely want my pawns on dark squares, complementing this bishop, restricting this bishop. a5. I have this move. Maybe preparing a5. I'm over defending b5. I'm also creating the battery against g2. The problem is my bishop's tied down to defending the knight. So maybe I want to go for a5, a4. And knight is ready to come in and do damage. Oh, what to do? a5. Maybe b4. Queen d6 is a great move. I might have to go for a queen trade, if that's even possible. I have this move. Oh, I'm getting mated. Oops. Will opponents see it? They're gonna see it. Yeah. Okay. Well, that ends my no loss streak. Not the way I wanted it to happen, but such is life. Yeah, going back to this moment. The move I intended to play was bishop takes e5. And black is doing actually quite well here. Because the calculation was takes, and then I was going to take on e3. Maybe there are better options though. Because if queen takes e3, I have knight c4. And if bishop takes b7, I was calculating this, and then this. Oh, but there's queen d8 mate as a threat. Okay. So maybe white's doing okay in that line. So in this position, engine likes knight takes e3 first. Queen takes e3. Yeah, there's a lot of move order things to consider. I guess bishop takes b7 here, then I can go for this. And there's not this queen d8 idea with this and this included. So this is actually a nice way to get the desired position after takes, if pawn takes knight c4. Okay, yeah, it's kind of painful. I mean, hopefully an instructive opening to face such a setup, this early e3 move, playing against IQP. But white got some good activity, and yeah, once I blundered the the piece. I mean, I tried to fight. I think I played bishop f7 a bit too quickly. It's really tough here, though. I mean, queen d8, knight f5. I'm really lacking defense on the king side. So what to do? Ending the episode on 2100. Hope you guys enjoyed the games. As always, if you have questions, leave them below. If you like the content, do subscribe and stay tuned for more. I'll see you guys soon.